I think we're live. All right. Hi, everybody. Hold on. No, it says setting up meeting and it's connecting on YouTube in the corner.
I
Okay,
think we're
we're
live.
live.
All right. Hi, everybody. Hold on. No, it says setting up meeting
Do you hear the
and it's
double feedback?
connecting on YouTube in the corner. I think we're
Okay, hopefully that fixes it. Hi, everybody. I'll be sure to cut that out. My name is Adriana Alejandre, and I'm the founder of the Latinx Therapy podcast and directory. And today we are here with Maira Hernandez and Rosa Casquino, who are my colegas and also members in the directory. The purpose of today's conversation, today's platica, is to talk about how the current administration has been impacting not just us as therapists, but also clients that we see, that we serve in our private practice, and in other settings, and our families as well. So we hope that within this conversation, you learn strategies, you feel less alone, and you feel connected with what we're talking about. So with that, I'll go ahead and hand it to Rosa.
Good morning. My name is Rosa Casquino. I am a licensed clinical social worker here in the state of California and Nevada. And I have a question for you, Adriana. What themes have you noticed since November within your clients related to immigration or the current political climate?
Well, themes overall. So I think, excuse me, I think it's been a lot of high anxiety and stress that's been going on. Just in I'm giving this answer like very generally. I'll share that we started, no me recuerdo cuándo, it must have been a few weeks while the immigration raids were going on. And here in Los Angeles, which is where I'm at, there's just been a lot since January. We started off the year with the wildfires, and then the immigration raids started pretty soon, like once they were nearly contained, they weren't even fully contained. And so it's just been boom, boom, boom. And so, yeah, I think some of the themes that we have seen in the undocumented support group that we have started for adults from the ages of 40 to 55 has been fear. People have not been leaving their homes, people not even to go grocery shopping, to the bank. They've been receiving a lot of support from their children, and even the children have been, adult children are afraid because there's been just threats overall. And the executive orders, even though they're not final say, they have to go through Congress. A lot of people don't have that education. And we live in an era where there's a lot of clickbait on social media, and the headlines they cause a lot of fear. And without that knowledge that, like, hey, executive orders are not a final say because the current administration, they just throw out these threats that become headlines. And so, yeah, I think overall it's been the hesitation, the fear, and the changes of lifestyle, just to put it briefly. And I'll go ahead and ask Maira a question. But Maira, before I ask you a question, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to us, because you're incredible as well.
Gracias. My name is Maira Hernandez. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, licensed in various states here in California, based in the Central Valley in Fresno, licensed in Oregon, Idaho, Texas, Utah, and Florida. And I specialize in immigration evaluation. So a lot of the bulk of my work has been really heavy since last year. So yeah, it's been really tough for a lot of people.
Yeah. And you're in private practice only?
I'm in private practice. I also teach at our university in the graduate program in counseling, and I do contracted work and supervise.
Okay, so you're everywhere a little bit, right? Okay, so the question we have for you is, how do you navigate the emotional toll of this work, especially when systems are broken and harmful? And I've seen you, in the depths of it as well, trying to serve, trying to create, and helping our community. So yeah, how do you, as a therapist, as a person, navigate the emotional toll?
This is a very heavy-weighted question for me because I have been feeling it in my body. I've been feeling it mentally. I've had to be intentional with taking time off and really practice wellness, and reaching out to my little support group that I have of other therapists that were friends, and it's been helpful, but it doesn't take away the fact that it still sometimes lingers, especially over, when I'm sitting with an evaluation and you're hearing the stories, and this is a very real threat for a lot of families being separated, the impact that causes, financial barriers, the distress that causes, housing loss, potentially relocating to the country of origin, and just the adjustment and the throw off that puts families. I mean, that's a constant thing that I hear, and so I have to do a lot of emotional like work to really just be present and be mindful of like their story, be able to document what I need to document for my work. But when I leave, I do feel like the emotional drain. I do feel like I feel it in my head, the shoulders, those typical responses we get out of stress. And so I have to be very intentional. And so if other therapists are engaging in this work, I think it's not ignoring those signs for ourselves. Like for me, it's been very intentional to like, okay, this is how I'm feeling. What do I need? Have I ate, after a 3 or 4 hour interview, did I drink water? Even just the basic needs, having a good night's sleep, not being doom scrolling on social media or things like that, So, I think that's the way that I'm handling it right now. It's working so far, pero, no deja de ponerme así a veces, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we can definitely resonate with that. And Rosa, if you've noticed anything as well, please chime in. But I know that I've had to schedule my massage therapy appointments more consistently because I get the knots up here as well. And I don't grind my teeth as much, but I have noticed like more clenching and fist holding, just like I think it's a response from anxiety, right? And I'm
Yeah.
just trying to hold it together, hold it in. And so these appointments help me to release, let go, soften because the world is so hardened. I tend to harden as well with what we're hearing.
Same. I've been practicing more like somatic exercises to really notice my body and notice that tension that it's holding on. And like, Myra said, after you do an interview for an immigration eval, it's, you're sitting for several hours and you're asking like really deep and intensive questions. And so your body's like, holding on to so much for that person that you're supporting. So making sure to eat, making sure to go for a walk. I've been going out for a walk with my dog in the evenings, and that's been really, really helpful to just reconnect to the present moment.
Yeah, the nature definitely does wonders, right? Like it's just reconnecting back to our roots, literally. So, Rosa, I know that we didn't get your bio and you have a question coming up from Myra. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for folks?
Well, yeah, well, as I mentioned, my name is Rosa Casquino. I'm a licensed clinical social worker here in California. I have a private practice. I work in community mental health and nonprofit for about 8 years, and predominantly with monolingual immigrant women who were escaping a violent relationship. And so that's really where I got the opportunity to do this work with the immigrant community and myself being an immigrant. So now I'm doing private practice supporting individuals that have gone through childhood sexual trauma. And I also do immigration evals as well as psychedelic assisted therapy in my work.
Mm.
Yeah,
All
I love
right.
it.
Yeah. All right, Rosa. The question I have for you is, how has your cultural identity or lived experience as a therapist shaped how you support your clients during this time?
Well, as I mentioned, I worked for many years in the beginning of my career with monolingual, undocumented women, and just connecting to them and to their experiences was so powerful. I myself was undocumented until the age of 18. So I understand the concerns that come up, the barriers that you can face, the fears. I was in elementary school when in California we had that Prop 187. I don't know if any of you recall that, and where the rights for undocumented children to receive a school, to receive the benefits of school was being questioned. And so just being afraid during those times, even as a kid. And so I can't even imagine what children right now are going through. We just saw yesterday how ICE was going to one of the schools in LA, and wanting to speak to, first, second, and third graders. So just knowing that fear when I was in elementary school, and just thinking of these kids going through the same thing. So that helps me align, right? With, I know what my clients are going through. I know their experiences, the trauma, the immigration trauma. I've heard so many stories of people crossing over and how difficult it was, how scary it was. And so I can support them through that pain, and I can hold space for them and understand why people come over, what brings them over, and what roots they set here in order to create a life for themselves. So that has informed the work that I currently do, my own experiences and the experiences that I've had with so many individuals that I've supported throughout the 10 plus years that I've been doing this work. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
I know that overall, yeah, it's just it hasn't stopped. It's been week after week of threats and attempts of
Yes.
sorts. And I'm also hearing folks talk about self-deporting, because it's just too much stress. It's too much, what kind of quality of life is this, right? And that's everybody's own choice, whatever process they want to take. And it's just an unfortunate and very heavy first few months into this year overall. Myra, I have another question for you. I wanted to ask what kind of discussions or interventions, as in which ones have been helpful for your undocumented clients during your time in private practice. Let's start there.
Yeah, so coming from a trauma-informed lens, it's really helping them regulate when they are feeling the trauma triggers, those somatic, feelings that they get, and it's helping them, work through their window of tolerance. Like, what is the distress? What is that? How does that affect you? Do you notice it in your body? Where do you notice it in your body? What are you thinking? What's going on, right? That can increase these, trauma responses. And so it's providing psychoeducation around how we experience trauma and stress in the body.
Yeah.
Helping them like with distress tolerance tools, teaching them body scanning, mindfulness practices, deep breathing, doing all that in session, and really helping them practice it throughout the week. Another thing too is, that radical acceptance that they may have to make decisions that are very difficult and challenging for themselves and their families. And so then how do you accept that, the good, the bad, right? And so what plan is there in place to be able to, work through it and adapt and work through the situation. Some people, like you said, Adriana, they might have to self-deport. They might have to, I mean, maybe the stress is not worth it for themselves and their families, right? So what does that entail? What does finances look like? What are your skill sets? What are you gonna do in your country of origin that you can start off, for employment, what stability do you have over there? What family support, right? What are those systems that are in place to help them transition with the difficult decision to make, as a family? So I think a lot of that, it's that radical acceptance that this is something that it's, very in your face, right? And so how do you navigate that, and really elevating their resiliency? I know for some people, being resilient is like, oh my gosh, like I have to be resilient, I have to be strong, right? Like I'm tired of doing that, right? But really is also like saying like, hey, like what are your strengths here? Like how has your family navigate like these, family challenges overall? And really highlighting those, as character, right, for them. And, as a family, how do they hold themselves to continue, making these tough decisions together and open the lines of communication and looking at what the impact is for everybody and just having conversations around this. And so, grief, talking about the grief of the American dream, what that, can they reauthor a new story of what that new dream is for the family, right? And so some narrative approaches around that. And it's not their fault. It's not their fault that these things are happening, it's just unfortunate. And, what's their new story, right? What is their new, what's the new plan? What's the new story? And then so just really elevating already their resilience, right? So
Yeah.
those are some things that I have been doing even before this administration, in the past too.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys have any others, but mhm.
Thank you. No, yeah, I appreciate the broadness of what you've mentioned because yeah, I mean, although not all is done in one session, right? Like it just this is such a heavy and very complex type of situation. And yeah, it requires a lot of attention, a lot of therapy, to also discuss. And as we heard from Myra, it's not just a solo choice. Typically, you talk about it with your family. And if you don't have family, you talk about it with those that do support your friends, your loved ones. And that's what we're also seeing in the support group. I wanted to mention in regards to this question, something that has helped them, and that was mentioned by the facilitator. I'm not the facilitator, I'm just the organizer, but the facilitator, Lisette, she said that social media was such a huge stressor because that's where they were getting all that information, the headlines, the clickbait, etc. And so everybody cut that off after that first session, and everybody reported a drastic reduction in symptoms and stress by the next session they met, which was the following month, because this is a once a month group. And they said that they're just drastically feeling more relieved, less afraid. There is still that chronic fear that lives inside them as like a baseline, but they don't feel that pressure and stress. So I do think that your news consumption and social media is a huge factor into your mental health, that and that falls in line with boundary work. I think that boundary work is really important, and I think radical acceptance is a skill under boundary work. So yeah, I think those are some of the things that we've been talking within my team, because we also serve this population. Rosa, anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I really liked what Myra said about rewriting their story, right? And that's a way of taking power back when so many people have felt powerless, and that's a word that I have felt recently when I'm going through social media and the moment, like every time something comes up, so it's like, I got to put that distance and practice that social media hygiene that you were just talking about, but empowering people to letting them know that they, what they do have power over, and that's such a beautiful way of framing it, of rewriting that story within their lives.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, we have one more question for everybody, and that is, I think just in general in regards to folks maybe that want to start therapy but are afraid because they are not sure if their therapist is racist, if their therapist aligns with them politically, if they're going to be judged, for their status or for anything, for even being part of a mixed status family, which is what I grew up in. So, what are some tips, recommendations, questions that you would suggest for people watching, listening to us that want to start therapy, um, but aren't sure if they align politically or are safe? Myra?
And when someone is looking for a therapist, it's like shopping around, right? So you're shopping around for the best service for you. So I want us to look at that. If there is a consejo I can give, is to ask the tough questions during that initial phone call, that consultation. Maybe the person had the opportunity to look at their website or their social media handle and kind of look at what does their website show, what information pops out, right? Are they for social justice, liberation work, are they trauma informed, what are the things that they're kind of posting out there with, and asking the questions during that consult call, like, hey, like, what are your political beliefs during this time? Like, because, I want to be able to discuss these things freely. Are they part of the BIPOC, right? Is it something like if they are an ally, white ally, what does their media, their pages show that they're an ally, right? So, asking those tough questions, I think, as we shop around, right? Like I've had to do that myself. Like I need a therapist that is into spirituality, right? Not your mainstream kind of stuff, like decolonizing, work, Spanish speaking. I want to be able to have, my Spanglish come out, right? What views do they align with? So I am asking that on the phone call. So I do encourage others to do the same because you're shopping around for someone that's going to be the best fit for you. Right. And let's say that you end up going with someone and you don't feel like the vibe is there. That's totally cool. Like you
Mhm.
you can cut ties and say, you know what, it's not working out. I'm gonna go somewhere else. So people don't owe us anything, right? Um, but I know for, even, in at least for me, I grew up with this like, the sense of like, oh, like la culpa, maybe I need to give it a try or I need to do more sessions, right? But if it doesn't feel right, trust your gut, go with someone else. So I would say that would be it for me.
That's great. Yeah, thank you so much for including that and stating that. You're saying do your research, check them out before maybe getting on the call, and take some time to reflect and gather some questions that are important for you. What are your values? What are you going to be talking about in therapy? We do have to get a little bit organized in that sense. It doesn't have to be in depth, just like in general, what are some of the topics that you want to bring up that are impacting you, and asking them just straight up, about those. How do you work with people who are undocumented? How do you work with people, what is your perception of being an ally to the BIPOC community or to undocumented folks, right? So just if there's something in their answer, in their tone that you don't like, listen to yourself, as Myra's saying, and say, um, you know, I'm going to continue looking. Thank you, and that's it. You don't know them anything. They don't know you anything. And this goes for folks that are paying for their services out of pocket, that are looking for a therapist via insurance, and that are receiving therapy at no cost. So all this applies under the sun. I know that organizations may limit you a bit, but you still have that right to feel connected to your therapist and say, that just wasn't the right fit. Rosa, anything you'd like to add?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. No, I mean, I agree with everything. And even when I was working at a domestic violence shelter, I would tell the same thing. Even though I was kind of the only therapist there, I would let them know it's okay if you don't feel like this is a good relationship. Like if you feel that you need somebody else, I will give you an outside referral. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother, it doesn't hurt me this because this is for you. At the end of the day, therapy is for the person that is seeking it, and they have every single right to determine what is a good fit for them and what isn't. Just like when you go to your doctor and you take a list of all the things you want to address, it's the same thing when you're looking for a therapist, you go in and you go with a list of the things that you want to make sure that you want in that provider. And that's just, that's the way that I frame it to people. And when I do my consult calls, I let them know, hey, you can go ahead and look other places. Please make sure that it's aligned with what you're looking for, and then reach out to me. I don't encourage people to make the decision same day unless they feel like in their gut that this is the right choice for them. I would rather them look and have a nice little platter of choices before they make a decision of something that's really important because it's for their own healing journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And along with that, with what you're saying, Rosa, is that so specifically for therapists in the Latinx therapy directory, we are in private practice where we practice independently from one another, meaning we each have our own sets of policies and procedures and forms that, our own clients have to fill out. And being part of private practice means we do have less resources, in the sense that we cannot see folks immediately. Typically, it's by appointment, and we don't see folks that, if you are in crisis, we likely cannot take you right away. We likely will give you resources, but some of our colleagues can't get to their lines because some of them have like 8, 9 minimum, appointments in a day, and they don't see their invoices until the next day. So I say that because I want to encourage you to think about therapy as a form of prevention versus when you're, in the depths of it, when you are in a rock bottom moment. So start doing your research perhaps now, start selecting, maybe set an appointment up, even if it's for a month out, 2 months out. But I think that because when it comes to immigration related stress and everything going on just in our climate, social climate, political climate, all the climates, there's a lot of panic that we are noticing as well in folks. Panic is connected to anxiety, and that also has the potential to lead us into depression because we feel helpless in this environment. So I just want to encourage folks to, yes, do their research, but from a form of prevention. And I know you're likely not feeling well even now. So before it gets worse is what I'm saying. And everyone under the Latinx Therapy Directory is pro-immigration. So when folks join, there are certain values that are expected out of our members. And if you don't get that from your therapist on this directory service, please, let us know and we will take care of you. But with that, we are all done here. We appreciate you all for watching. If you stayed up to this point, please check out the description and we will have everybody's information, Latinx therapy profiles for you to check out and see what kind of work they're doing. And with that, I'll hand it off to Rosa for our strategy.
So I'm going to lead a quick just meditation so that way we can close out and reconnect with ourselves. Sometimes when we talk about these really deep and powerful topics, hello? Deep
I
and powerful
spotlighted you.
topics. Oh, sorry. Like, sometimes when we talk about these deep and powerful topics, we can get really, really activated. At least I know that I can feel activated as I connect with that. So we're going to go ahead and take some space for that. So before we leave the space, I would love to invite you to slow down with me for just a moment and come back into your body with your breath and with your ancestors. So let's begin by finding a comfortable seated position. And if it feels safe for you, I'm going to invite you to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze. Take a slow and deep breath in through your nose and a long exhale through your mouth. Let's do that one more time. Vamos a inhalar. Exhale. Now bring your awareness to your feet. Feel the ground beneath you, supporting you, holding you. Imagine the earth beneath you, connected to the lands, the view and your ancestors, the wisdom, the resiliency, the love. Todo ese amor is there and it's still within you, profundamente dentro de ti. I'm going to invite you to place one hand on your heart, and the other one on your belly. Feel your breath rising and falling beneath your hands. You are here. You are alive. Y eres poderoso y poderosa. In your mind or out loud, I'm going to invite you to repeat after me. Estoy aquí. Vengo de amor. Y estoy en mi poder. Let those words echo within you. I'm going to invite you to take one final deep breath. And imagine exhaling anything heavy you may have absorbed today. And when you're ready, I invite you to slowly return to the space. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, and gently open your eyes. Thank you for being here with us.